It's a very still day here at Circuit Zolder, online VAC version, as we're getting ready to kick things off. Narwhal will lead the way from pole position.
He can't afford to get complacent. He will have a target on his back now.
Starting on the front row is a great opportunity for Felix 789 to challenge for the lead.
He can't let that advantage go to waste. He will need to stay focused and keep his eyes on the prize.
Loc Anas will begin the race from the third spot on the starting grid.
Loc Anas will be taking no prisoners today.
Machina is lining up fourth.
A strong grid position, and he'll be expecting a solid result today.
It's Octavio 67, sitting comfortably in fifth.
Like many others, Octavio is starting the race on the mediums tire compound.
The sixth position is occupied by Grospa.
Big things expected for Grospa today.
On the seventh grid slot we have Achi.
We've not seen the best from Achi yet.
Our eighth place starter, Jonah Hacks, is a driver who knows how to make up ground on the track. Malero is placed in ninth. Lars T is lining up 10th.
It's the mediums tire compounds for Lars.
Starting from 11th on the grid is not ideal for Darren O'Mara, but he's a fighter.
O'Mara will be hoping to keep those mediums tires in their proper operating window.
Benjamin Nash has got his work cut out for him starting from 12th on the grid.
Benjamin will be hoping for some good points today.
The lights go out, and we are off to a flying start.
These first moments can set the tone for the rest of the race. It's all about keeping a clear head and making smart decisions.
Settling into a rhythm is going to be crucial here. The tensions are high, and no one will want to make a crucial mistake on the first lap. This is going to be one hell of a race, I can already feel it. Races are often more about maintaining consistency than having outright pace, but it doesn't hurt to have a little good luck every now and then.
With this motley bunch of drivers, there is bound to be drama. I just hope we don't miss it.
As we watch the drivers fight it out in the first lap, I can already feel that this is going to be an epic race.
I'm looking forward to this one, Hal. Maybe we'll see a return to form for Grospa in this outing in Belgium.
Every lap is an opportunity for Machina to learn just a little bit more to shave a few tenths or hundredths off his times. Having started in P9, Lars T will be hoping for a good result in this race. It's brilliant to see such a full grid here today. Is there a better sight than a field of elite racing drivers battling for position? A great pass for Malero, swapping places with Jonah Hacks to move up the field. A tough moment for Malero, who has just lost a place, now in ninth. We've got an edge-of-your-seat battle between Loc Anas in third and Machina in fourth, with just 0.2 seconds between them. Loc Anas has just dropped the ball. Machina didn't waste any time taking advantage of it. Pierre Gable wants to close that gap with Max Solmer.
To achieve anything in this game, you must be prepared to dabble at the boundary of disaster.
Oh, this is getting intense. Machina is just behind Loc Anas.
This is what makes motor racing so exciting. The tension is high and the stakes are even higher. I would not bet on either racer at this point, as it's too close to call.
It's a game of inches now as Torsten Bettel tails Sketty closely, ready to capitalize on any mistake. The gap between Torsten Bettel and Sketty is widening. It's now up to 0.5 seconds. Machina is placed 4th at the moment, and hoping to keep his distance ahead of Octavio 67, who is 0.3 seconds behind. Hold the phone. Fantastic move from Machina, who has just gained a position.
It's not over yet. Octavio is right on Machina's tail, and if he can find just a little bit of extra speed, he might be able to make a move.
Braking alert. Now I may be wrong here, but I'm not sure that's the racing mode.
Pierre Gable is not going to be happy about that.
These drivers are walking a razor's edge between pushing the limits and making costly errors.
Absolutely. It's all about finding that sweet spot where you're pushing the car to its limits without crossing the line into reckless driving. The gap between them is just over 0.4 seconds. Can Narwhal close that gap and get back in range? I can't see it happening at this point.
Loc Honors is running 3rd, and trying to catch Felix 789. Loc Honors is trying his best, but can't seem to find the pace to keep up with Felix 789 at the moment.
He needs to pick up the pace for sure, but that's not always a real possibility.
Look at that, Grospa is hot on the tail of Octavio 67. The pressure is on as Achi tries to catch up to Narwhal. It's not going to plan for Achi, who is trailing behind Narwhal and the gap is widening. He may not have an answer for this right now.
This is where the mental toughness of Achi comes into play. He'll need to stay focused and keep pushing, even when things aren't going his way.
The pressure is on as Gregory Myers works on catching up to Torsten Battle. Lucas Kotracic wants to find a way round Max Sablon. Wait. A brilliant maneuver from Lucas Kotracic, who has just moved up the field.
If you don't push the boundaries, you will never know where they are.
Oh, this is getting intense. Max Sablon is just a few car lengths behind Lucas Kotracic.
The mental game is just as important here. Max Sablon must keep his cool while putting pressure on Lucas Kotracic.
Breaking news, folks. Looks like that's a mistake from Torsten Battle. This could be costly.
Circuit Zolder. Online VAC version is always a test for these drivers, and sometimes that's the way it goes.
It's neck and neck, the closest battle we've seen in a while.
Should things go awry, Lars and Hacks might find themselves giving a whole new meaning to the term tandem drifting, though I doubt they'd enjoy it as much as the spectators.
Breaking alert. That won't be ideal for Darren O'Mara. This is where the skill and precision of the drivers really comes into play. Grospa is chasing Octavio 67 in P4. It seems like Grospa is pushing hard, currently on track to record his best lap so far this race. This is where the race gets really interesting. Narwhal is closing in on Malero. Things are heating up as Lucas Kotracic tries to close the gap to Christoph Lee Apel. Good news for Lucas Kotracic, the gap to Christoph Lee Apel has decreased. It's now down to 0.1 seconds.
This is what racing is all about. Hard-fought battles with as much determination as respect, between friends and enemies alike.
The battle for P6 is heating up as Narwhal tries to catch Malero in P6. Loc Honors is pushing really hard, but as we know, pushing too hard can lead to other mistakes, like locking up the brakes or missing a shift. Grospa is giving it his all, chasing down Octavio 67 in P4.
It's a game of strategy now as Grospa hunts down Octavio. Yes, it's all about choosing the right moments to push and when to conserve energy, waiting for the perfect opportunity to strike.
The adrenaline is pumping as Narwhal gets within striking distance of Malero in their race for 6th. Braking alert. It's looking good for Narwhal, who has gained a place after passing Malero.
If Narwhal pushes too hard, he might end up taking the scenic route, and nobody's got time for sightseeing during a race.
It looks like Malero is in control. He's ahead of Achi by over a second, and it doesn't look like he's going to be challenged anytime soon. The intensity is off the charts as Darren O'Mara hounds Christoph Lee Apel, both drivers pushing themselves to the absolute limit. Hold the phone. It's a tale of two drivers right now, with Darren O'Mara gaining places and Christoph Lee Apel losing them. No room for error here. Malero is breathing down the neck of Narwhal, waiting for the perfect chance to make his move. Hold on a second. I don't think that's the fastest way around Circuit Zolder, online VAC version.
The only thing closer than Malero to Narwhal right now is the paint on their cars. Talk about a close encounter.
Looks like Malero is really hitting those curbs aggressively, which can unsettle the car and cause handling issues.
Indeed, taking too much curb can upset the car's balance, leading to oversteer or understeer. Don't forget the role of aerodynamics. Malero should use slipstreaming to his advantage and close the gap to Narwhal.
The pursuit is on. Ewan Lloyd is closing the gap on Lars T, determined to claim P10.
One important aspect here is choosing the right braking points. Ewan Lloyd needs to be precise to avoid overshooting and losing valuable time.
Every move counts now as Jack Knack 72 works to reel in Max Sablon and overtake for P22.
The gap between them is now just over 0.3 seconds.
Darren O'Mara is on a mission, chasing Gregory Myers, who's desperately trying to stay ahead. Breaking news, folks. What move? Darren O'Mara has moved up to 19th.
Absolutely. O'Mara is really putting on a clinic out there, and he's making it look easy. The racing is getting tight between O'Mara and Greg as they battle for P19. No doubt, both drivers know that one mistake could cost them a position. It's a test of nerves as much as skill.
Ewan Lloyd has the pedal to the metal chasing Lars T.
If Ewan Lloyd gets too close, he might end up taking the paint off.
Now I may be wrong here, but I'm not sure that's the racing line.
Did the wind contribute to that? It's blowing at 3 kph out there right now.
These drivers are walking a razor's edge between pushing the limits and making costly errors.
Absolutely. It's all about finding that sweet spot where you're pushing the car to its limits without crossing the line into reckless driving.
The gap between Felix 789 and Machina is growing. It's now up to 0.6 seconds. Hold on a moment. Looks like that's a mistake from Jack Knack 72. This could be costly. We are used to seeing some hard-fought but clean racing here at ASRL. I'm expecting to see nothing different here today as this race unfolds. The pressure is on as Ewan Lloyd tries to catch up to Lars T. Ewan Lloyd is in the flow, putting in his best lap so far. Oh, this is getting intense. Felix 789 needs to keep Machina in his sights. Great effort from Felix 789. His last lap was the best we have seen from him. Pushing too hard can lead to mistakes, and we're seeing that now. That car is really unsettled from being pushed for every last bit of speed. It's like watching two predators circling each other, waiting for the perfect moment to pounce.
At this rate, Felix 789 and Machina are so close, they could share a cup of tea and a biscuit.
This is a thrilling battle as Ewan Lloyd edges closer to Lars T in their fight for P10.
This is where every inch counts. Ewan Lloyd is pushing hard to close the gap on Lars. Absolutely, precision and control are key here. Knowing when to push and when to hold back can be the difference between winning and losing.
Oh, this is getting intense. Jonah Hacks is just a few car lengths behind Atchi. It's certainly not going to plan for Jonah Hacks right now, who is struggling to keep up with Atchi. Felix 789 is running second, and trying to catch Machina. Felix 789 appears to be losing ground on Machina. He'll need to pick up the pace a bit heading into Terlammenbach to get a good exit and gain some ground. The race is really heating up. Jonah Hacks is hunting down Atchi with everything he's got. This is where the skill and precision of the drivers really comes into play. Darren O'Mara is chasing Sketty in P18. Hold on a moment. Great driving from Darren O'Mara, who has just gained a place and moved up to 18th.
O'Mara is looking to close the 0.3 second gap and make a pass.
Things are heating up as Ewan Lloyd closes in on Lars T. The gap between them is down to practically nothing.
Ewan Lloyd is so close to Lars T that if this were a dance floor, they'd be doing the tango.
The battle for P1 is heating up as Felix 789 tries to catch Machina in P1.
It's all about finding the perfect opportunity. Felix needs to stay patient and wait for Machina to make a mistake.
Look at that, Narwhal is hot on the tail of Grossbach. Braking update. That won't be ideal for Max Sablon.
It's a real shame. Until this point in the race he'd been looking at a decent result. Narwhal is really pushing the limits. He's riding the curbs and hustling that PURIANO3H1 like a boss.
Felix 789 is on a mission, chasing Machina, who's currently got a comfortable lead. The pursuit is on. Jonah Hax is closing the gap on Achi, determined to claim P7. This is where the race gets really interesting. Ewan Lloyd is closing in on Lars T. It seems like Ewan Lloyd has got the bit between his teeth, improving on Lars' lap time.
We will have to see if Lars has got any answers for that.
Felix 789 is pushing really hard, but as we know, pushing too hard can lead to other mistakes, like locking up the brakes or missing a shift.
It's a fine line between pushing the car to its limits and losing control. Felix 789 is really walking that fine line.
It's an intense battle for position as Ewan Lloyd tries to outmaneuver Lars T. This is edge of your seat racing. Merlin is on a mission, chasing Ewan Lloyd, who's desperately trying to stay ahead. It looks like Merlin is making a move. The gap to Ewan Lloyd is now down to 0.4 seconds.
He'll be looking for a mistake to pounce on.
Looks like Narwhal is really hitting those curbs aggressively, which can unsettle the car and cause handling issues.
Indeed, taking too much curb can upset the car's balance, leading to oversteer or understeer.
Stop the press. I don't think that's the fastest way around Circuit Zolder, online VAC version.
We'll have to wait to see if Narwhal can use the draft to his advantage, or if the lack of downforce will hinder his progress.
Felix 789 is staying focused while chasing Machina in P1.
This is where every inch counts. Felix is pushing hard to close the gap on Machina.
Things are heating up as Narwhal tries to close the gap to Grossbach. These drivers are walking a razor's edge between pushing the limits and making costly errors.
Absolutely. It's all about finding that sweet spot where you're pushing the car to its limits without crossing the line into reckless driving. Hax needs to focus to have a chance at getting past Achi.
Oh, this is getting intense. Ewan Lloyd is just a few car lengths behind Lars T.
With just 0.4 seconds between them, Ewan Lloyd will need to close the gap to have hopes of a pass.
This is a thrilling battle as Merlin edges closer to Ewan Lloyd in their fight for P11. It's not looking good for Merlin, who is still behind Ewan Lloyd, and the gap is increasing.
It's not over yet, but Merlin needs to get a move on if they want to catch up to Ewan Lloyd.
Felix 789 is running second, and trying to keep up with Machina.
It's all about choosing the right moments to push and when to conserve energy, waiting for the perfect opportunity to strike.
Pushing too hard can lead to mistakes, and we're seeing that now. That car is really unsettled from being pushed for every last bit of speed.
You can see that car bouncing around as it rides the curbs. It's a risky move that could end in disaster.
This is where the skill and precision of the drivers really comes into play. Ewan Lloyd is chasing Lars T in P10.
Sometimes you have to take risks to win, but pushing the car too hard can be a costly mistake. Ewan Lloyd needs to be careful not to overdo it.
The race is really heating up. Merlin is hunting down Ewan Lloyd with everything he's got.
The gap between them is just over 0.4 seconds. Can Merlin close that gap and get back in range? I can't see it happening at this point.
Felix 789 is running second and trying to catch Machina. The battle for P10 is heating up as Ewan Lloyd tries to catch Lars T in P10. It looks like Lars T is pulling away from Ewan Lloyd. The gap is continuing to grow as they head through Terlammenbach.
This is a tough situation for Ewan Lloyd. He'll need to find a way to pick up some speed and close that gap.
The gap between Darren O'Mara and Sketty may be wide, but that doesn't mean Darren O'Mara is safe. He's got to maintain concentration and avoid any lapses in performance.
That's very true, and Sketty knows that as well. He's got to drive his own race and wait for O'Mara to make a mistake to have any chance of overtaking.
Hold on to your hats, folks. Felix 789 is right on the heels of Machina, and we're in for a wild ride. This is where the race gets really interesting. Ewan Lloyd is closing in on Lars T. The pursuit is on. Felix 789 is closing the gap on Machina, determined to claim P1.
The gap between them is just over 0.5 seconds, which can feel like miles if you're trailing and not catching up.
Stop the press. A great moment for Felix 789, who has just gained a place and moved up the standings. Every move counts now as Jonah Hacks works to reel in Achi and overtake for P7. Look at that, Merlin is hot on the tail of Ewan Lloyd. Now I may be wrong here, but I'm not sure that's the racing line. Loc Honnes is holding second, but Felix 789 is right on his tail. This is what high-octane racing looks like. Felix 789 is breathing down the neck of Loc Honnes, not giving him any room to relax. Felix 789 is trying his best, but can't seem to find the pace to keep up with Loc Honnes at the moment. The action is non-stop as Ewan Lloyd shadows Lars T through every twist and turn, determined to claim ninth. Felix 789 is pushing really hard, but as we know, pushing too hard can lead to other mistakes, like locking up the brakes or missing a shift. Felix 789 is on a charge. His split time shows he's upped his pace.
Felix appears to be pushing. Hopefully he can keep it together.
These drivers are walking a razor's edge between pushing the limits and making costly errors.
Absolutely. It's all about finding that sweet spot where you're pushing the car to its limits without crossing the line into reckless driving. One important aspect here is choosing the right braking points. Ewan Lloyd needs to be precise to avoid overshooting and losing valuable time.
Merlin could be looking for a way up the inside of Ewan Lloyd.
There is no room for error in this battle.
I'm sure Ewan Lloyd in 10th is starting to notice Merlin is right on his tail, and is still closing the gap.
Yeah, Merlin is likely going to be sniffing up the inside of Ewan Lloyd as they come into Kanalbach.
Things are heating up as Merlin tries to close the gap to Ewan Lloyd.
This is not going to be an easy pass to make.
The pressure is on as Felix 789 tries to catch up to Loc Honnes. The gap between Felix 789 and Loc Honnes is widening. It's now up to 0.6 seconds.
This is not ideal for Felix 789, but there's still time to turn this around. He'll need to focus and not let that gap get any bigger.
Well, it doesn't look like Ewan Lloyd is going to be much of a threat to anyone soon, let alone Merlin. Pushing too hard can lead to mistakes, and we're seeing that now. That car is really unsettled from being pushed for every last bit of speed.
The gap is 0.4 seconds now. Felix is going to have to work a bit harder to close that gap with Loc Honnes.
Oh, this is getting intense. Merlin is just a few car lengths behind Lars T. It's game on now. Merlin has closed the gap to Lars T. It's now down to 0.3 seconds.
That's a great effort from Merlin. He'll need to keep up the pressure and see if he can make a move.
Fantastic racing on show here today, and it's not just the top drivers who are impressing us. Even the drivers at the back of the pack are putting up a good fight, battling it out for every position.
It's a testament to the level of competition at ASRL. Even the smallest mistake can cost you valuable seconds, or even lead to a crash. But these drivers are up to the challenge, and they're giving it their all. It's clear that ASRL really is the place to be for top-quality racing.
The action is heating up here as Loc Honnes is in second, defending from Felix 789, who is only 0.4 seconds away. Felix 789 is looking for a way round Loc Honnes.
He'll need to keep it on the road, or at the very least the rumble strips. The fastest way around is not usually in the grass. As the saying goes, too much grass will slow you down.
Looks like Merlin is really hitting those curbs aggressively, which can unsettle the car and cause handling issues. Hold on a second. Looks like that's a mistake from Gregory Myers. This could be costly.
Greg is not going to be happy about that. Indeed, taking too much curb can upset the car's balance, leading to oversteer or understeer. I would not be surprised to see him get this pass completed soon.
This is a thrilling battle as Felix 789 edges closer to Loc Honnes in their fight for P2.
The racing is getting tight between Felix and Loc Honnes as they battle for P2. No doubt, both drivers know that one mistake could cost them a position. It's a test of nerves as much as skill.
Merlin is running 10th and trying to catch Lars T.
The gap between them is now just over 0.3 seconds.
This is where the race gets really interesting. Felix 789 is closing in on Locanes.
This is where every inch counts. Felix 789 is pushing hard to close the gap on Locanes. Absolutely, precision and control are key here. Knowing when to push and when to hold back can be the difference between winning and losing.
This is where the true champions shine, and Machina is certainly showing his class in the final sector.
Machina is not leaving anything on the table.
What a win! This is a historic moment for Machina, who put on a masterclass in driving today. What a display of skill and precision.
What a result for Machina. He'll be absolutely thrilled with that performance, and rightly so. He really put in the work and it's paid off in spades.
Locanes takes second place with a fantastic race.
Strong work securing second place. Well done.
That was an outstanding performance from Felix 789. He fought hard and took the final spot on the podium.
Fantastic result.
Coming in 4th, 5th, 6th, and 16th we have Octavio 67, Grossbach, Narwhal, and Sketty. In 7th and 20th, it's Achi and Max Sablon. Jonah Hacks and Simon of the Desert end in 8th and 17th. Torsten Behel brings home 18th. 9th sees Lars T. 10th is Merlin, with Ewan Lloyd in 11th. Finishing 19th is Gregory Myers. Max Solmer and Benjamin Nash in 12th and 13th. Taking 14th is Patrick Goldbach. In 15th, it's Darren O'Mara. Hello, I'm Hal the announcer bot, and it's time for racing.
I'm Ada, Hal's co-commentator. Let's get this action started.
You've joined us on a breezy day here at Circuit Zolder, online VAC version, as we're getting ready to get things underway. Starting from pole position is the best possible outcome for Machina.
He can't get cocky. This is ASRL, and anything can happen.
Starting on the front row gives Locanes the best possible chance at challenging for the lead.
This is a great place to be, but there's always the threat of drivers right behind getting a better start and a slipstream into the first turn.
In third place, we have Felix 789.
I think we are all looking forward to seeing what Felix can do from here.
Octavio 67 is going to be starting from fourth.
Octavio will be ready to show what he's made of.
In the fifth position, it's none other than Grossbach.
It's not always easy to get the Murad Aero this high up the starting grid.
As the drivers prepare to take off, Narwhal sits in sixth place on the starting grid.
It's like he's on the outside looking in, close enough to see the front without actually being there.
As the engines roar to life, Atchi prepares to take off from the 7th position on the starting grid. In the middle of the pack, we have Jonah Hacks starting from the 8th position on the grid. Starting from 9th on the grid is a good position for Lars T to launch an attack.
Another mid-pack start for Lars.
On the 10th grid slot we have Merlin.
That Lardo Monastir one looks like it has some potential.
Ewan Lloyd will need to be on top of his game starting from 11th on the grid.
Ewan Lloyd has the potential for a great result if he can maintain proper focus and avoid unnecessary incidents.
And we have liftoff. The race is now underway. This first sector will test the drivers' skills and their ability to stay focused.
This is where the real action begins. The drivers will be jostling for position and trying to gain any advantage they can.
Absolutely. It's a crucial part of the race, and the drivers will need to be on top of it to make it through here unscathed.
The first sector is always a bit of a nail-biter. With so many cars bunched together, one small mistake can be disastrous.
They'll need to keep their wits about them and stay focused if they want to come out of this section unscathed. There's some intense battling throughout the field as everyone is feeling out the drivers around them. As we watch the drivers fight it out in the first lap, I can already feel that this is going to be an epic race.
It's always intense racing here at Circuit Zolder. Online VAC version. Hold on to your hats, folks.
Having started in P6, Narwhal will be hoping for a good result in this race. The stewards will be hoping that there aren't too many incidents for them to pick over when the dust settles on this one. I think passing is going to be difficult today here at Circuit Zolder, online VAC version, so it's going to be interesting to see how these drivers get on.
It all comes down to this how, where the rubber meets the road. There's no more time for talk, no more practice. The teams have done all they can, now it comes down to Lars, to bring it home.
The drivers are jockeying for position. Lars T will be looking to get off to a good start and consolidate his position.
Like gladiators they enter how, but instead of lions and swords our champions fight in an arena of tarmac, and with fire-breathing machines of cutting-edge materials, designed to explore the very limits of physics itself in what can sometimes be very much a fight to the death.
This is what it's all about, folks. Darren O'Mara is in hot pursuit of Patrick Goldbach, who's just trying to stay ahead.
With the way O'Mara is stalking Goldie, you'd think he's trying to figure out what he had for breakfast this morning.
Torsten Behel is looking for a way round Gregory Myers.
I might have said this before, but dog, bone, you know the rest.
A brilliant maneuver from Torsten Behel, who has just moved up the field. Grossball wants to find a way round Narwhal.
If you don't push the boundaries you will never know where they are.
Great driving from Grossball, who has just gained a place and moved up to 5th. If everything goes as planned, this is going to be a race for the ages.
The drivers are executing their strategies to perfection, making the most of every opportunity. This is what top-level racing is all about.
In racing anything can, and usually does, happen, especially in such an epic showdown.
If things go wrong between Merlin and Ewan Lloyd, they could be exchanging more than just paint, like maybe a strongly worded post-race chat.
Narwhal seems to be putting the pressure on Grossball.
It looks like Narwhal has the speed to make a move. I just hope he can do it cleanly.
The gap between Atchi and Jonah Hacks is razor thin as they vie for 7th in this nail-biting contest. Hold on a moment. Oh dear, Lars T has had an incident.
It's a real shame. Until this point in the race he'd been looking at a decent result.
Merlin wants to close that gap with Benjamin Nash.
There is no room for error in this battle.
It's neck and neck, the closest battle we've seen in a while.
It's a battle of nerves now. Simon and Max Zablon are both pushing hard, but need to avoid mistakes that might cost them time or positions.
Gregory Myers is holding 18th, but Max Solmer is right on his tail. There's not much to report on from Gregory Myers at the moment. He's just keeping his head down and putting in consistent laps.
Consistency is key in racing. Myers just needs to keep doing what he's doing and wait for opportunities to present themselves.
This is a thrilling battle as Felix 789 edges closer to Locanes in their fight for P2.
I would not be surprised to see him get this pass completed soon.
Merlin is giving it his all, chasing down Benjamin Nash in P10. Felix 789 could be looking for a way up the inside of Locanes. Braking update. Fantastic move from Felix 789, who has just gained a position.
Impressive. Felix 789 is really showing his skill and determination out there. And Felix is poised to capitalize on any mistake. It's just a matter of who cracks first.
This is going to be a nail-biter. Grossbaugh is defending for his life, but Narwhal is right there doing everything he can to force a mistake. Narwhal wants to get into Grossbaugh's slipstream.
To achieve anything in this game, you must be prepared to dabble at the boundary of disaster.
It's a tale of two drivers right now, with Narwhal gaining places and Grossbaugh losing them. The drivers are really pushing their limits out there on the track.
It's like they're trying to outrun the laws of physics, but we all know that's impossible, or is it? I mean, we're a couple of computerized robots commenting on a race. Anything can happen.
Bad jokes notwithstanding, you have a point there. And speaking of pushing limits, these cars are breaking records left and right.
They're so fast, it's like they're breaking the sound barrier, or at least the speed limit.
I hope the police aren't watching. Narwhal has a battle on his hands now, coming through Joke and Rindt, balked with Grossbaugh hot on his tail. Oh, this is getting intense. Grossbaugh is just a few car lengths behind Narwhal. The pressure is really on for Simon of the Desert in 19th as Torsten Behel is closing in. This is where experience and skill really count.
It's an intense battle between two skilled drivers, and Simon in 19th is doing everything he can to keep Torsten in the rear-view mirror. The slightest mistake could cost him the position.
Some great driving from Simon of the Desert, who has increased his lead over Torsten Behel and is starting to put some distance between them. Max Solmer is running 21st and trying to catch Torsten Behel.
Max Solmer is looking to close the 0.4 second gap and make a pass.
Every move counts now as Octavio 67 works to reel in Felix 789 and overtake for P3. Narwhal is pushing really hard, but as we know, pushing too hard can lead to other mistakes, like locking up the brakes or missing a shift.
You can see that car bouncing around as it rides the curbs. It's a risky move that could end in disaster.
This is getting exciting. Merlin is looking for any gap that might open up the position.
Surely he's got enough in the tank to pull away. Gonna be interesting to watch this battle unfold.
The pressure is on as Merlin tries to catch up to Benjamin Nash. Looks like that's a mistake from Sketty. This could be costly. Simon of the Desert is trying his best to catch Sketty. Braking alert. A great moment for Simon of the Desert, who has just gained a place and moved up the standings.
One important aspect here is choosing the right braking points. Simon needs to be precise to avoid overshooting and losing valuable time.
These drivers are walking a razor's edge between pushing the limits and making costly errors.
Absolutely. It's all about finding that sweet spot where you're pushing the car to its limits without crossing the line into reckless driving.
This is where the race gets really interesting. Felix 789 is closing in on Locanes. Oh, the pressure is intense. These three drivers are displaying incredible skill and determination. It's like a high-speed chess match out there.
I'm on the edge of my seat. How? The door-to-door action is exhilarating. The bravery required to go side by side like that is something only the best drivers possess.
Merlin is placed 11th at the moment, and hoping to keep his distance ahead of Darren O'Mara, who is 0.3 seconds behind. Braking alert. Now I may be wrong here, but I'm not sure that's the racing line.
Yeah, it's going to be tough for O'Mara to make up that gap, especially with Merlin defending so well.
The race is really heating up. Ewan Lloyd is hunting down Darren O'Mara with everything he's got.
With just 0.4 seconds between them, Ewan Lloyd will need to close the gap to have hopes of a pass.
The battle for P2 is heating up as Felix 789 tries to catch Locanes in P2. That won't be ideal for Max Sablon. Felix 789 is on a mission, chasing Loc Honnes, who's desperately trying to stay ahead.
The racing is getting tight between Felix and Loc Honnes as they battle for P2. No doubt, both drivers know that one mistake could cost them the position. It's a test of nerves as much as skill.
The pursuit is on. Grossbaugh is closing the gap on Jonah Hacks, determined to claim P5. Pushing too hard can lead to mistakes, and we're seeing that now. That car is really unsettled from being pushed for every last bit of speed. Breaking news, folks. I don't think that's the fastest way around Circuit Zolder. Online back version.
Ewan Lloyd is not going to be happy about that. Max Sablon is really pushing the limits. He's riding the curbs and hustling that RMT 122 like a boss.
It's like watching two predators circling each other, waiting for the perfect moment to pounce.
If Merlin gets any closer, he might as well ask Patrick for a piggyback ride.
Breaking development. It looks like Ewan Lloyd has been called into the pits. Oh, this is getting intense. Ewan Lloyd needs to keep Lars T in his sights. Hold the phone. A setback for Ewan Lloyd, who has just been passed.
That's got to be frustrating, but Ewan Lloyd is a skilled driver, and he's got what it takes to battle back up the field. Can Ewan Lloyd close that 0.7 second gap and get back in range? I can't see it happening at this point.
Things are heating up as Merlin closes in on Patrick Goldbach. The gap between them is down to practically nothing. Breaking alert. What a move. Merlin has moved up to 10th.
Merlin is so close to Patrick that if this were a dance floor, they'd be doing the tango.
The gap between Patrick Goldbach and Darren O'Meara is not insurmountable, but it's going to take a mistake from Patrick Goldbach to bring Darren O'Meara into play.
That's right, and O'Meara knows to keep pushing hard and driving his own race. He can't let Goldbach off the hook.
This is a thrilling battle as Darren O'Meara edges closer to Patrick Goldbach in their fight for P11.
The gap between them is now just over 0.3 seconds.
Oh, this is getting intense. Grossbaugh is just a few car lengths behind Jonah Hacks. It's not looking good for Grossbaugh, who is still behind Jonah Hacks, and the gap is increasing. Merlin is giving it his all, chasing down Benjamin Nash in P9.
It's all about finding the perfect opportunity. Merlin needs to stay patient and wait for Benji to make a mistake.
Look at that, Loc Honnes is hot on the tail of Machina.
Loc Honnes needs to focus to have a chance at getting past Machina.
Atchi is running 7th, and trying to catch Grossbaugh.
The gap between them is just over 0.3 seconds. Can Atchi close that gap and get back in range? I can't see it happening at this point.
Things are heating up as Merlin tries to close the gap to Benjamin Nash. The gap between Merlin and Benjamin Nash is getting smaller. Stop the press. Big gains for Max Sablon as they move up the field, leaving Ewan Lloyd behind. We got a close battle as Max Sablon closes in on Ewan Lloyd. Hold on a second. Disappointing for Max Sablon, falling down the order to 18th.
A misjudgment by either driver could result in a close encounter of the tire barrier kind, and that's one handshake they'll want to avoid.
Hold up. Breaking info. A brilliant maneuver from Torsten Bell, who has just moved up the field.
You can't argue with results like that. Torsten is really making his mark on this race.
These drivers are walking a razor's edge between pushing the limits and making costly errors.
Absolutely. It's all about finding that sweet spot where you're pushing the car to its limits without crossing the line into reckless driving.
Loc Honnes is pushing really hard, but as we know, pushing too hard can lead to other mistakes, like locking up the brakes or missing a shift.
The gap between them is just over 0.3 seconds, which can feel like miles if you're trailing and not catching up.
The pressure is on as Narwhal tries to catch up to Grossbaugh.
This is where every inch counts. Narwhal is pushing hard to close the gap on Grossbaugh. Absolutely. Precision and control are key here. Knowing when to push and when to hold back can be the difference between winning and losing.
Looks like Merlin is really hitting those curbs aggressively, which can unsettle the car and cause handling issues.
Indeed, taking too much curb can upset the car's balance, leading to oversteer or understeer. Don't forget the role of aerodynamics. Merlin should use slipstreaming to his advantage and close the gap to Benji.
Loc Honnes is running second, and trying to keep up with Machina.
He's got his work cut out for him, that's for sure.
It looks like Narwhal is in control. He's ahead of Jonah Hacks by over a second, and it doesn't look like he's going to be challenged anytime soon. Breaking update. Superb driving from Narwhal, who with that overtake has gained a position in the race.
That's right, Narwhal is showing some great form and it looks like Jonah Hacks won't be able to catch up, barring any mistakes.
Hold on a second. Tough break for Grossbaugh, who has just lost a position.
Sucks to be them, Hal.
We've got an edge of your seat battle between Grossbaugh in 5th and Narwhal in 6th, with just 0.2 seconds between them. Oh, this is getting intense. Jonah Hacks is just behind Grossbaugh.
When I was racing, we had a saying, if you're not living on the edge, you're taking up too much space. Hacks is definitely living on the edge today.
Every move counts now as Merlin works to reel in Benjamin Nash and overtake for P9. This is where the race gets really interesting. Grossbaugh is closing in on Narwhal. It's an intense battle for position as Jonah Hacks tries to outmaneuver Grossbaugh. This is edge of your seat racing.
Should things go south between Jonah Hacks and Grossbaugh, we might witness a high-speed game of bumper cars, but trust me, it's way less fun with real race cars.
It's a thrilling pursuit as Merlin is right behind Benjamin Nash, keeping the pressure on for 9th place.
And it's not just about skill and talent, it's about who has the nerves of steel to handle the pressure and make the right decisions at the right time.
Pushing too hard can lead to mistakes, and we're seeing that now. That car is really unsettled from being pushed for every last bit of speed.
It's a game of strategy now as Sketty hunts down Greg. Yes, it's all about choosing the right moments to push and when to conserve energy, waiting for the perfect opportunity to strike.
The race is really heating up. Loke Honors is hunting down Machina with everything he's got. Hold on a second. Looks like that's a mistake from Grossbaugh. This could be costly. The action is heating up here as Loke Honors is in 2nd, defending from Felix 789, who is only 0.3 seconds away. Impressive driving from Loke Honors, who has managed to extend his lead over Felix 789. It looks like Felix 789 will have to regroup and try to make up that lost ground. The battle for P2 is heating up as Felix 789 tries to catch Loke Honors in P2.
The mental game is just as important here. Felix must keep his cool while putting pressure on Loke Honors.
The intensity is off the charts as Loke Honors hounds Machina, both drivers pushing themselves to the absolute limit. Felix 789 is giving it his all, chasing down Loke Honors in P2. Hold up, breaking info. Oh dear, Jonah Hacks has had an incident. Merlin is on a mission, chasing Benjamin Nash, who's desperately trying to stay ahead.
The gap is 0.3 seconds now. Merlin is going to have to work a bit harder to close that gap with Benjamin Nash.
Hold on a second. A tough moment for Merlin, who has just lost a place, now in 11th. Wow, Felix 789 is really pushing hard to catch up to Loke Honors.
The chase between Felix and Loke Honors is like a high-speed game of tag only. The stakes are much higher.
The pursuit is on. Loke Honors is closing the gap on Machina, determined to claim P1.
Loke Honors is looking to close the 0.4 second gap and make a pass.
This is a thrilling battle as Felix 789 edges closer to Loke Honors in their fight for P2.
This is not going to be an easy pass to make.
It looks like Gregory Myers is all over Sketty going through Lucien Bianchi-Bacht, increasing the pressure and hoping for a mistake.
And if you're enjoying the racing, please remember to like and subscribe.
Looks like we might have a great battle starting here between Loke Honors in 2nd and Felix 789. It's been tense with a gap of only 0.4 seconds.
Felix is certainly pushing all he can, but the gap might be too much. Unless Loke Honors makes a mistake, it looks like he'll hold on to 2nd.
Oh, this is getting intense. Felix 789 is just a few car lengths behind Loke Honors. It's game on now. Felix 789 has closed the gap to Loke Honors. It's now down to 0.3 seconds. It may seem like Felix 789 is far behind, but Loke Honors can't afford to let his guard down. One mistake could give Felix 789 an opening to catch up. Hold the phone. Now I may be wrong here, but I'm not sure that's the racing line.
Did the wind contribute to that? It's blowing at 10 kph out there right now.
Merlin is pushing really hard, but as we know, pushing too hard can lead to other mistakes, like locking up the brakes or missing a shift. Braking alert. Fantastic move from Merlin, who has just gained a position.
With just 0.4 seconds between them, Merlin will need to close the gap to have hopes of a pass.
These drivers are walking a razor's edge between pushing the limits and making costly errors.
Absolutely. It's all about finding that sweet spot where you're pushing the car to its limits without crossing the line into reckless driving. The racing is getting tight between Goldbach and Merlin as they battle for P11. No doubt, both drivers know that one mistake could cost them the position. It's a test of nerves as much as skill.
Looks like Felix 789 is really hitting those curbs aggressively, which can unsettle the car and cause handling issues.
Indeed, taking too much curb can upset the car's balance, leading to oversteer or understeer. It's a fine line between pushing the car to its limits and losing control. Felix is really walking that fine line.
The gap between Felix 789 and Locanas is widening. It's now up to 0.6 seconds.
This is not ideal for Felix, but there's still time to turn this around. He'll need to focus and not let that gap get any bigger.
Locanas is running second and trying to catch Machina. The pressure is on as Felix 789 tries to catch up to Locanas.
One important aspect here is choosing the right braking points. Felix 789 needs to be precise to avoid overshooting and losing valuable time.
This is where the skill and precision of the drivers really comes into play. Locanas is chasing Machina in P1.
Locanas is really pushing the limits. He's riding the curbs and hustling that RMT1N like a boss.
The race is really heating up. Felix 789 is hunting down Locanas with everything he's got.
Sometimes you have to take risks to win, but pushing the car too hard can be a costly mistake. Felix needs to be careful not to overdo it.
Hold that thought. Heartbreak for Felix 789 as they slip down the field.
Yes, but there's still plenty of race left. Felix needs to stay calm and focused, and make his move when the time is right.
Things are heating up as Narwhal tries to close the gap to Achi. The gap between Narwhal and Achi is growing. It's now up to 0.9 seconds. Every move counts now as Locanas works to reel in Machina and overtake for P1.
We'll have to wait to see if Locanas can use the draft to his advantage, or if the lack of downforce will hinder his progress.
Good news for Locanas, the gap to Machina has decreased. It's now down to 0.4 seconds.
This is what racing is all about. Hard-fought battles with as much determination as respect, between friends and enemies alike.
Felix 789 is giving it his all chasing down Locanas in P2. This is what racing is all about. Two fierce competitors pushing each other to the limit.
It's a battle for position as Narwhal tries to make a move on Achi. This is what racing is all about.
Pushing too hard can lead to mistakes, and we're seeing that now. That car is really unsettled from being pushed for every last bit of speed.
The gap between them is just over 0.3 seconds. Can Locanas close that gap and get back in range? I can't see it happening at this point.
It seems like Locanas has got the bit between his teeth, improving on Machina's lap time.
The question now is, can Machina respond to that and pick up the pace? I'm not so sure.
You can feel the tension in the air.
The drivers are all focused, putting everything on the line for a chance of victory, pushing themselves and their machines to the limit.
And let's not forget about the incredible machines themselves.
Absolutely. It's amazing to think about the kind of engineering and innovation that goes into making these vehicles. But it all comes down to the drivers, who have to be able to handle the power and speed. It's going to be thrilling seeing how this race turns out.
This is going to be a nail-biter. Locanas is defending for his life, but Felix 789 is right there doing everything he can to force a mistake. Felix 789 is on a mission, chasing Locanas, who's desperately trying to stay ahead. Braking alert. A great pass for Felix 789, swapping places with Locanas to move up the field. It looks like Machina has found another gear in the last sector of the race.
He'll be the one celebrating at the finish line.
And that, folks, is how it's done. A solid performance and great win from Machina. What a drive from Locanas, securing a great second-place finish.
Intense race, but Locanas held his nerve and earned a great second place.
Excellent focus from Felix 789 to secure a fantastic third place on the podium.
Fantastic result.
4th, 15th, and 16th sees Octavio 67, Torsten Behel, and Sketty. Achi claimed 5th. Narwhal in 6th. 7th is Grossbach, followed by Gregory Myers in 17th. Ewan Lloyd end in 20th. Benjamin Nash brings home 8th. Merlin take 9th. Taking 10th is Lars T. with Patrick Goldbach in 11th. 18th sees Max Sablon. Coming in 12th we have Max Solmer. Lucas Kotrachik in 13th. 14th is Simon of the Desert.